What's up, nerds, and welcome back to the Overwatch League Network YouTube channel. I'm Totally Drunk, and I'm here to break down the top teams in North America following the Overwatch League opening week. Like many of you, I had a lot of questions headed into the new season in regards to 5v5, roster changes, teams running double flex support, and also solo tank. Some of those concerns can already be put to rest early, but that didn't make the 5 slot any easier on me for week number 1. Just as a friendly reminder that the podcast is releasing new content on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays now throughout the 2022 season. So let's go ahead and break this down. Now, there were 4 teams that I had vying for the 5 slot this week: the Toronto Defiant, Washington Justice, Florida Mayhem, and the team that I eventually did land on, the Houston Outlaws. Now, the Outlaws kicked off their season with a dominant 3-0 victory over the Dallas Fuel, their Texas rivals. This battle for Texas took place at a homestand event, and I couldn't picture a more nerve-wracking situation to kick off the season for the Outlaws in this sort of scenario. But, the Fuel were touted heading into this. Outlaws get a win back, trying to even out the overall season or series against their rivals, but still coming up a little bit short in that regard. But who knows, maybe the tides have turned going into this season after the walloping that they gave the Fuel. Now, looking at this, the Outlaws were the solo team in the league to experiment with the DPS player picking up the Doomfist now that he's moved from the damage role over to the tank position. Pelican has been on an early tear in the Overwatch League, but what made things difficult was a lack of flexibility at that tank slot. Now, Piggy did slot in and saw limited play over the weekend, primarily at the LAN event. But this team, in order for them to thrive, they really need to see Merit get in some additional support from Lashro, because right now that has been one of their biggest downfalls. And just a lack of flexibility was a little bit exposed in their later series over the weekend. Coming in at number 4, we have the Los Angeles Gladiators. Now, this is one of 3 teams to walk out with 2 wins under their belt to start the season after week 1, and expectations for this team have been sky high for the squad with the return of Patapan to the Overwatch scene after dominating the Valorant for some time. You pair that with Ons, who appears to be back in form, and Kevster, who looked really strong, and you have what could potentially be the most potent DPS lineup in all of the league, not just NA. Now, the Gladiators looked good, but you can't help but feel as if they maybe showed a little bit too many of the cards in their hands, as they showed a number of different team compositions. Patapan early on struggled to get out of the gate, and has been feast or famine, but you can still tell that his mechanical skills are there. But until then, the Gladiators need to find their tempo, and as soon as they do that, they could really get the ball rolling here. Coming in at number 3, we have the Dallas Fuel, who struggled to kick things off in a good fashion, getting 0-3 against their Texas rivals, the Houston Outlaws. But it's all about how you respond in the Overwatch League, and what did the Fuel do? They came out and gave an utter shellacking to the Washington Justice in one of the most dominant series of opening week. Hanbin's Zarya play was a real treat, as his bubble management allowed Sparkle's Reaper to take center stage. Now, one area of concern that I have for Dallas right now is really just failing to set up and support Edison. Edison's Soldier was sufficient, but the Fuel haven't really been doing enough to help enable his play. The Fuel still seem to be stuck in that, okay, we're going to put all of our eggs in the Sparkle basket and see where the chips fall at that point. But for now, it was a good, but not great weekend overall. But you can still see that when the Fuel are set in the tempo, they are one of the better teams in NA. Capping off their 2-0 week and coming in at number 2 are the San Francisco Shock. And it may be a while for the community to warm up to Kalush, but that won't stop the Shock from rolling the competition. Now, when you look at the Shock, you have to talk about map control, and that was really backed by Kalusia's Winston and Proper's lights-out debut in the Overwatch League, coming just short of a flatted deadlift on more than one occasion this weekend. Any concerns about running double flex support have been snuffed out by Violet, who picked up the Lucio for the Shock. And, it might be a little bit too early to tell whether or not this team has returned to form until we see them up against a little bit stiffer competition. But you cannot deny that this team, when you talk about peaks, has potentially the highest in all of the Overwatch League. So we'll see how they fare next week, when they got a much tougher opponent, and I am looking forward greatly to that one. Which brings us to the top spot, and the Atlanta Reign. When both of your DPS players are coming in and averaging like 5-6 to 1 kill to death ratio, you know that you are getting the support that you need. And the Reign have been great at punishing any opening that they get, and the level of pressure from Kai was unmatched in week number 1. Now, Hawk was another one of the players who brought out quite a bit of Doomfist over open in a week, and it was a much different approach from what we saw from the Houston Outlaws with Dante. A lot of situations would occur where Hawk was the bait, and then you saw the punish coming in after him, which was a much different approach to it. But for the most part, the Reign, being the aggressors, setting the tempo, spawn camping, up to all of their old shenanigans, and it's really hard not to put them anywhere but the top after week number 1. But, Shocker right up there in the discussion for overall map control. But these two teams are looking pretty damn even at the start of the Overwatch League, and we'll see how things unfold over the course of the season. Now, with that being said, week 2 of the Overwatch League returns on Friday. That's right, we have no Thursday games slotted for this week, so keep that in mind. So, you guys got a day off to rest and gear up for some of the matches we have on Friday. But until then, be sure to stay connected with us over on Twitter at OWLN Show, and we'll see you guys back later in the week. You take care.